Now, Husker football, too, we mentioned a little bit about the visitors coming in. Nebraska lost a guy off the football team today, a big guy. Jaquez Yant has entered the transfer portal. Of course, this has been a string of days where Nebraska has had guys enter the transfer portal. Jamari Butler, if you missed it yesterday, entering. Rico, what are your kind of initial thoughts on Jaquez Yant? The way that first of all, I'll give mine then when I come away with it is because on the captain, there's kind of this battle about how good Jaquez Yant and this and that. Regardless of whether he deserved more carries this year or, some people were not thinking he was the best at hitting the holes or whatever. He's a guy that just has so much potential. And so sometimes when you lose a football player, it's not about what you're losing currently. It's what the potential that you lose down the line. I mean, this is a guy I think, kind of, bigger back, kind of maybe an Amani Cross type. And maybe that's never meant to be the Amir Abdullah, which, Amani Cross had to play behind Amir Abdullah, kind of get the goal line carries. Maybe it was never going to be your lead back, but he definitely had big package. I don't say potential because he was already at that level, but certainly more potential down the line too. But I suppose if there's a room that could take a hit, it might be the running back room.
I had to figure out a way to say this in the nicest way possible. I don't think this is a big loss. I don't think Jaquez Yant entering the transfer portal is a big loss for this Husker football team. Yes, he had potential. Yes, he was a bigger back. But at times, it seemed as if although he was a bigger back, he didn't run as though he was a bigger back. He tried to run for speed. He tried to bounce things outside. And again, I don't know if those are play designs or what. If it is, then you're using him wrong. If it's him, then he's not running to his full potential. But I think, again, like you said, the running back room could take a hit. They've got a ton of capable bodies in there. I mean, he was behind Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Ervin, AJ Allen. I don't know who of all of those four are going to stay, but he was behind all four of those. So him leaving, although, you're losing a big back, a possible big back package, I think Gabe Ervin is more than capable of doing that. I think AJ Allen is more than capable of doing that. And they've got a couple other running backs on the roster that are able to, lower their heads, run behind their shoulder pads and get you about a yard or two. So it's going to suck, losing Jaquez Yant. He was a fan favorite, but I don't think that it's that big of a loss for the Husker football team.
Yeah, I still think if you look at the losses, you still look at mostly Ernest Hausman, and to find out where he goes is going to be interesting, especially Nebraska. A little bit thin there at linebacker. Hausman, along with Ativa Maga Clements, were the top backups. Henrich and Reimer had dealt with injury issues. If they, go to the, kind of more to the 4-3 instead of having the nickel out there, you're going to need to find another starting linebacker and then some backups because those guys, like I said, have had those injury issues. We don't know what the defensive coordinator is. We don't know what the defense is going to look like. But I still see that by far the biggest loss in the portal. And it's real. I think that's the one thing that you kind of feel okay about if you're Nebraska. Yes, you'd rather not lose Ernest Hausman, but there's not, of all these portal guys, I think there's like I said, I think 12 of them now, 11 since the end of the season. I don't think you've lost a whole lot of mainstays to what you probably were planning on doing next year.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of the guys that have entered the portal were depth guys, potential guys who you could see making an impact later, or hopefully making an impact in the future for this football team. Ernest Hausman, I mean, although he ended the season on a tear, again, it's a potential guy. He's a true freshman. You don't know if he's going to keep that up, if he's going to get worse, if he's going to get better. So it's a potential guy. A lot of guys who were future looks at on this team. It sucks to lose them because, again, that's depth that you had behind your starters and what have you. But for the most part, it's there's some not big losses, but there's some important losses in the transfer portal so far, and it's not done. I mean, we're just getting started.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's like a total of 18 starting quarterbacks in the transfer portal. I mean, there are teams that are losing some pretty significant pieces. And there's going to be a lot of reshuffling done for teams. And that's what's interesting to see where Matt Rule, because I mean, a lot of these visitors that we talked about that coming in this weekend, it's kind of re-recruiting the high school class and maybe adding additions to that. With this transfer from Rhode Island, with this transfer from Georgia Tech, of course, the Rhode Island transfer, the offensive tackle, one of the top names in the portal. Don't let the Rhode Island thing fool you. Top offensive lineman ranked in the portal, I believe, by On3, and in the top, and one of the top, I think, 5 players overall, maybe number 2 there. And then Jeff Sims, again, 3-year starter at Georgia Tech. So now you're starting to see the ball rolling, and because these are some big names that could affect Nebraska immediately. Yeah. I mean, like we said, I don't think Jeff Sims is necessarily here to take Casey Thompson's starting spot, but if Casey decides to move on and they're able to, land, I mean, you're talking about maybe 2 of the most important positions on your team visiting this weekend that you might need to have filled. So it's going to be an interesting weekend. If either of those guys commit, it will be huge.
Crazy.
Obviously, very, very crazy if Jeff Sims commits and Casey hasn't made his decision. Nebraska also needs...
I think that kind of makes the decision for him.
See, that's where I would be interested, because Sims does have 3 years to play too. I don't think he wants to sit out. He's played, he's started for 3 straight years. But if he wants to come in and compete, Nebraska also could use a pretty darn good backup quarterback.
You are not wrong.
Yeah, as we saw play out this last year. And for those that are wondering, another quarterback, how many quarterbacks do you need in a room? I think you might see if
3.
If they add another one, there might be a few guys hitting the portal.
You need 3.
Yeah, and you just expect at the quarterback position for guys to hit the portal. That's
100. Yeah.
Before the transfer portal, there was quarterbacks transferring all the time.
It was, I'm 4th on the depth chart. And if anybody's letting the Rhode Island part of that offensive lineman's, bio get to you, just remember Samori Toure came from Montana. Trey Palmer was 4th or 5th string down at LSU. So don't let the school name fool you. Don't let the wherever they're at on the depth chart fool you. If these guys can play, the coaches are going to find them, and hopefully their skill sets transition to Nebraska.